So, hello, welcome to our podcast that currently has no name right now because this is our very first recording. My name is Chris, and I'm joined by our brother Andrew and longtime good friend Raymond, where we share a common love for all things gaming, and we're here to explore the world of entertainment, the good, the bad, the ugly of the game industry, film and TV, comics, and everything else related with varied and unique perspectives, given our different backgrounds that we hope will be entertaining for you and also provide some interesting, thought provoking takes on those topics. Now, with this being our first show, let's start simple. Like everything, there's always a beginning. So I want to ask, how did y'all first get exposed to video games and your first memories? I want to start with you, Andrew. Take it away.
So my memory on gaming is a little blurry. Like there's a point where I remember interacting with games, but then there's another point where I feel like I kind of just am like aware of what it is that we're playing, and then like myself at that time. And so all of that was in like the PlayStation One era, and I think it really kicks off with like Squaresoft and like Final Fantasy. But prior to that, there are just like flashbacks of Nintendo and Super Nintendo, which I remember we used to play, and we had our family members and friends playing, but
Yeah,
not too many specific memories on those types
yeah,
of games.
yeah, for sure. I remember our Super Nintendo. Yeah, I remember playing Duck Hunt with the like gray orange gun. I remember playing that a lot. I wish we still had that. Don't know where it is right now. I don't know if we sold that or it's somewhere stuck in the house somewhere. But yeah, definitely remember that Super Nintendo. Kind of like you, I remember. Yeah, first memories were to that Super Nintendo. But definitely PlayStation One era is when things start to really get memorable for me. But Raymond, how about your side? How did you come from games? What's your first memories that you can recall of?
Um, okay, I had a Super Famicom,
Yeah.
but I think my most memorable would have been the Game Boy Pocket with
Oh,
like when Pokemon released.
yeah.
Mm.
So yeah, I kind of pretty much skipped consoles all the way to the N64,
Oh,
and
damn.
then from yeah, like I didn't. Plus, my parents are anti video games, so like yeah, I didn't get PlayStation. Um, I think N64 since all my friends had it. I finally got one. But then I skipped that, went straight to PC, StarCraft,
Mm.
Diablo 2, and then I guess yeah, those were the most memorable ones. Like I wasn't really a console guy,
Mm.
mostly
Mm.
handheld and PC.
Oh, okay. Okay. No, interesting. It's an interesting take. That's from having a different beginning, right? I mean, yeah, I think me and Andrew definitely started with that console. I mean, we had a Game Boy.
Mm.
Um,
Were you guys into
I think
Pokemon?
Yeah,
yeah.
we had Pokemon Blue, which I don't know how we got that. Like in my memory, we just sort of had it, but I don't remember ever like buying it or anything. And so I wonder if mom or dad just like got it from a friend.
Could be. Yeah, I can't recall either how we got our hands on it, but yeah, I definitely remember blue. I remember the logo being was a Blastoise, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
And playing that on the Game Boy. Um, yeah, I mean, uh, but talking about Game Boy, I don't really, other than Pokemon and maybe a few other games, maybe like a Donkey Kong thing. I
Mhm.
definitely don't have much memories about the Game Boy after that. I think definitely most of our childhood was dominated primarily through console. I mean, yeah, it's a short stint with the Super Nintendo, however long that was, but definitely the PlayStation kicked in. I mean, I think in fact our first game for the PlayStation was um, Ray Rayman, I believe. Yeah, Rayman.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
I think Rayman seems to remember that. Yeah, Rayman. What Rayman? Oh, funny. Yeah, Rayman. Rayman was pretty cool. I don't know how that became our first game. Maybe someone just whoever got the PlayStation for us just decided to pick that up for us. But Rayman, I don't know. And I think funny thing about Rayman is I don't think when we first started playing with it, I don't think we actually beat it or knew how to beat it, given how young we were, until I think we got older and we got into it again. I think one of us, you or me, Andrew, got pretty far into it. I think eventually we beat it, but yeah, that's a long time. But yeah, Rayman, that's brings memory lane.
Yeah.
That's not an easy game. That is not.
Yeah, I don't recall beating it, but I think you got pretty far. Like I remember going through the different levels. There was like a section where you rode like a mosquito, and then they had one of those like climbing levels where like the rain was like coming up, and so you had to just like um, platform up. But it was all kind of better. But I do remember playing that and being frustrated.
Yeah, yeah, that's not. That's definitely not a. That's not a game to take. Not It's not a game you want to take it easy on for sure. So Raymond, you start primarily with a PC. I mean, I remember when I first met you. You talked a lot about like Diablo, StarCraft, which I mean, I guess even now I can't say I'm fairly aware. I mean, I was aware of it, aware of what it was, um, but would you say you stayed in PC because you found it better for you compared to what was being offered in consoles at the time?
I think it just all depended on what like the majority of my friends were playing.
Mm,
So I was actually late to the like playing PC because like all my friends were on PC already, and then they introduced me to Diablo. I guess a Blizzard in general. But yeah, I think if I grew up with people that had were like console gamers, I probably would have stuck to console. But yeah, I wasn't like thinking like PC was better. I probably didn't even have knowledge of that.
yeah, I mean, I think for PC gaming, I think yeah we were pretty late into that ourselves. What was our first PC game? I think our very first PC game that we tried was that Chex Mix game.
Oh yeah,
Was that
Chex
the
Quest.
Chex
Chex
Quest?
Quest.
I don't know. Do you know that one, Raymond?
No.
So there was like it was those Chex cereals.
Yeah.
They at some point they actually made a computer game, and then the selling point was you buy a box of cereals, and included was a legit like Doom like game, but with Chex cereal. All right, and then
Yeah.
your knife was like a spork, and it was legit. It was actually legit good. Um, and I remember we playing that a lot, and I think that was probably our first PC game that we
Hmm.
played. Um, I wish we still had that disc somewhere. I mean, it sucks. I bet you if we sold on eBay, so they'd probably be worth something. But yeah, that was actually a legit fun game.
They have
I think.
a remastered version on Steam.
Oh really? Oh okay.
Yeah, it's there. It's there. I was contemplating whether or not to pick it up. Just just it's like, is this as good as I remember it being?
Yeah. I might check that out later because yeah, that game was pretty memorable. But it wasn't. I think that was our first, as far as I can remember, that was our first legit PC game. And later on, eventually, I think once we got our hands on like a new Nvidia GPU at the time, whatever model number that was, like back in like I don't know, like mid '90s, late '90s, I forgot. Uh, Counter Strike 1.6, I think, was probably what we were mainly playing right after, or as far as what I can remember.
Hmm. Yeah,
Counter Strike.
I'm not sure what brought you into it, because I mean basically whatever you were playing, I eventually hopped onto as well. But yeah, I don't remember what the inciting incident was to get you onto Counter Strike. If you heard it from your peers or what? Because I mean, my group of friends, actually my classmates, like if anyone played, it was Game Boy, maybe it was console, but like no one was ever talking about PC until like well into middle school. That was even a thing.
I had a lot of memories from that. I would argue that venture into CS just because of Steam, right? I mean, Steam made no. Oh, I think Counter Strike was a mod of whatever of the
Half Life.
off of Half Life, right? Yeah, but I think us hopping into CS eventually introduced us to all the different things with PC gaming. Just people were being able to mod games right off of the Half Life game. So what was it? Counter Strike. Eventually, Day of Defeat. That was fun. Um, a game you and I love a lot, Andrew. Natural Selection.
Hmm.
That was a pretty memorable moment. Um, but yeah, I mean and I guess think about it now. For PC gaming, we really just stuck into the first-person shooters on PC game. I think when we went along. But Raymond, you pretty much focused on like real-time strategy type of games like StarCraft. Did you play Warcraft too?
Warcraft, I never played, but I guess like remember like Age of Empires.
Yeah,
Like yeah, I think mostly RTS, and then Diablo looked like an RTS, so
yeah,
I think I kind of stuck to those. Yeah, FPS it was mostly Counter Strike. Um, I mean I didn't really play online though. Like I played with my friends,
yeah,
like usually at the PC cafes.
yeah.
So yeah, but it was mostly StarCraft and Diablo.
Yeah, those PC cafes back then. Yeah, I remember. I wonder if there's still at least where we are now in the states, if they are still popular. I know it's been a while. I think I remember going to one nearby nearby school in town back in the day. I forgot the name of it already, but
Is that
I wonder if there are
Networks? I think.
maybe it sounds kind of
Talking about
familiar.
talking about Ethiopia.
That sounds that sounds familiar too. I can't remember. It's the one nearby in town. Near the Alamana Shopping Center is
Oh,
I can't
that one,
remember.
the upstairs one.
Yeah, yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah, I
Been there a
never
few
been to
times.
that one. I always went to the sketchy one on Beretania because it was the cheapest. Actually, so there was like a LAN game going on for CS,
Yeah.
and then like I was talking too much shit. So one of the older guys came into the room. He's like, "Who's talking shit?" And all my friends were silent, right? So I just raised my hand, and then he like pinned my face to my desk.
Oh,
He's like, he's like, if you keep talking shit, let's take it outside or something. So yeah, that was my first experience with not trolling too hard.
hey, you
But
know,
yeah,
though, props to you for owning up to it. Just raising your hand.
no, because I think because when he came through the door, like I was furthest from the door, so it looked like he was about to just beat up anybody. So I knew if he like started something with my friend would have got mad at me too. So I was like, okay, I might as well just own up to it. Yeah, because if my friend got beat up, I know he would have been mad. So I was like, okay, let's just. But I didn't think he would pin my face to my desk.
Yeah. Well, glad that you came out of that one. Okay. But well, I mean that sounds pretty memorable, memorable moment. So I guess well, since we're talking about memories, then I mean, what would y'all say your memorable moments in gaming? Would that be like a moment, a game, a particular game moment in the game or event like Raymond's, nearly, you know, a PC cafe fight?
I mean, what initially comes to mind are like moments in those games, whether it's like just like a cool story moment or a hype scene. But then we also have some more personal memorable moments that are gaming related. Probably one of the biggest ones. arguably one of my more embarrassing moments is when I just had uncontrollable kid rage, and um, mom wasn't having it anymore. Do you remember this, Chris? It was the end of our
Yeah.
PlayStation 2
Oh yeah.
for a little bit of time. Oh my god! It was after that moment I knew I had to tone it down a little bit.
Yeah. That was pretty memorable. Well, I guess the what game was that? I think it was
Shinobi,
Shinobi.
never
Shinobi, that's
forget.
right. Yeah, yeah. So the PlayStation Two, PlayStation One, PlayStation Two, Shinobi.
Mhm.
So I don't know, Raymond, if you ever tried that game, but it's like one of those like um those I guess equivalent of like today games like Souls like games back then. I guess kind of. Um,
Mhm.
and we just and yeah, there was a moment where it was just so hard, and we kept dying, and yeah, and yes, like the rage came out, and our mom was not having it, so she just like took. I don't know what it was. Was it like a candle, like a candlestick, a book candle, something like that? I forgot. It was some kind of stick, and
Mhm.
she just took it and she just like destroyed our PlayStation right in front of us.
Yeah.
And it was like she smacked it down, and it's like yeah, and she just like walked out.
Yeah.
So
And I I remember after the dust settled a little bit and the shock wore off, you turned to me. You're just like, "Look what you did." I was like, "Okay, well, let's."
well, I wasn't the one playing at that time, right? So it technically was you. That was
Yeah.
pretty. Yeah, that was pretty. That was pretty memorable. I think. Yeah, I think that definitely the lesson is yeah. It's just a game. It's just a game. It's just a
Hmm.
game. Be there for some fun. For me, memorable. Yeah. The memorable moments. I think yeah, like like we mentioned earlier, we've all been um, we've been playing games in some way or form um, when we were young. But I think the point where a game could really make you sad. I mean, it's kind of like you mentioned SquareSoft, right? So Final Fantasy Seven. I think Final Fantasy Seven was pretty much our first RPG. I think, um, as far as I can remember, and as we all know, that very famous scene where Aerith gets stabbed by Sephiroth and the sword. Um, I remember being that me, a little kid, watching that and reading the text and just being in shock, like what just happened, just feeling a bunch of emotions, like wow, like I can't believe they killed Aerith, this character, and you have all this like Aerith's theme blasting in the background music, and I remember just being like terribly sad and hit hard about that one. I mean, it's like wow, like one, the character died. Two, I'm reading this, like all this emotion coming in. Like I didn't know how to comprehend that. I just knew that was partly in denial because after that, I think I was probably fast forwarding into the strategy guide that we had at the time, just trying to figure out, what if we can somehow get her back or something like that. But yeah, that's definitely got to be a memorable moment. I suppose that moment for me is when I can recall when I perhaps game games became more than just a game for me that I would argue today has stuck with me. Meaning that I mean, like you all know, I'm very heavy on games with a narrative of some sort, um, and yeah, I mean, a game with a great story. It's something I live and breathe in today, and I gotta argue that yeah, that big moment in Final Fantasy Seven with Eric's death happening was what's pretty memorable to me, and kept me going with gaming all these years. Yeah.
I can give you an opposite story.
Okay.
This memorable moment that turned me off of certain genre forever. So, okay, did you guys ever play Morrowind?
I know it.
Mm-mm.
Everybody.
Okay, so I think prior to Morrowind, like when enemies chase you,
Mm,
Hmm.
like didn't they have a certain radius where they kind of back off,
right.
right? So in Morrowind, I stole something and then I ran away, right? Because the character was like chasing me. So I was thinking, like, okay, if I run out of town, like I was thinking on prior game knowledge, like, oh, how they run back to their original location.
Yeah.
So I left town and was running through the forest, and then I heard like a faint dialogue behind me, and the freaking same lady was chasing me, and like I turned off the game. Like I was so freaked out because I wasn't aware of this technology where they just keep chasing you. So like I think from that, I never wanted to play horror games like where things just chase you. So like yeah, that I think Morrowind traumatized me forever because that legit freaked me out. Like when I saw her down the trail running towards me, like seriously, I got like chicken skin and like my heart stopped for a second. I just turned off my Xbox. Like that was that's how I stopped playing. I don't play anything that chases me.
That sounds like just one of those urban legends we used to have back in the day. Like the like ghost disc ROM where it's like a kid's soul is in the game or something like that. Like that seems like one of those moments where you would think it's like, oh my god, the urban legend is true.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I mean, I was listening to that story. I was thinking like back in those like '90s, like Flash games or Flash videos, where I forget what it's called, Urban Legend, something like that. Yeah, and then so I don't know. Maybe I don't know. You ever asked anyone if that character did that to anyone else? Maybe it was just you, Raven. I don't know. So
No, but I think that was like the because well, I don't know what you call it, but I guess in that game it was they would just chase you forever if you let them. I think unless you go through like another like checkpoint somewhere.
mm,
But yeah, I never played that game again after.
I feel like they might have toned that down. So I never played Morrowind, but I played Skyrim. Haven't had that issue where they've chased me that long.
Oh really?
Yeah, or like have just popped up. So I wonder if other people were kind of freaked out by that too, and they're like, all right, maybe we have to set a radius.
I'm kind of curious to try it. Kind of curious to try it out. I don't know. Maybe look it up on YouTube or something. See what other people um, have experienced that before. But okay, so I mean, we've all been playing games for individually more than 30 years. Um, and clearly we see how we all come from both all of us come from different games. We have different types of memories and perspectives. Um, so I argue that we probably have seen quite a few ways how games have changed over the years. I mean, what? So more than 30 years. So we're going as far back as, like Raymond said, Famicom, Super Nintendo. So we've seen PlayStation, Xbox, PS2, 3, 4, 5, Xbox 360, PC games, PC hardware getting stronger. So I mean, games have definitely changed in a long way, and there are many days where current games we play today. Sometimes I always have in the back of my mind things that I really wish they did this a different way or a way that happened before. I mean, so did y'all happen to ever feel like there's some kind of genres or gameplays or types of gameplay mechanics that y'all wish would come back or see more or make a resurgence?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is something that we've talked about quite a bit, just like on the side. But I don't know if there's necessarily like a term for it, but large scale objective base multiplayers, like um, like old school Battlefield, like Natural Selection, and you still kind of get that here or there, but it's always been kind of scaled down. I mean, the last time I played Battlefield was I think like Battlefield 5, maybe.
Hmm.
Um, and it kind of had those elements, but they kind of broke it down where it happens in phases now, which is fine. It's fun, but it's a completely different experience from say like a Battlefield 2.
Yeah.
where it's just like all these things are happening at one time, and it's like you and your squad, maybe another squad, they're gonna go on other side of the map to take down the radio tower to help the entire team of like 30 to 60 people.
Definitely, Battlefield games today are a lot more. Definitely, you can say Battlefield games today are much more mainstream to, in my opinion, to a fault in some ways. Because yeah, I mean, I remember Battlefield Two having that commander mode, and it really was a thing. It was definitely a much more slower paced game. Um, and not only that, you could do things in that game as a team that would legitimately affect the other team and how they would be able to, um, I guess, function to play the game. So, for example, like I remember something like you have two teams in Battlefield Two. You can each team would have like a radar or certain types of buildings that would provide some sort of resources or something like that, some kind of support, and you could try to sneak in behind enemy lines and destroy them, detonate them, or just somehow sabotage it such that the other team would maybe lose that resources. Um, like maybe it was radar scanning or being able to provide some sort of artillery support, I suppose, something like that. And that type of level of ability as a team to, or just having action to be able to do such a thing, just makes that game feel a lot more dynamic. And I guess, I mean, technically, the whole game multiplayer is real time, but it definitely feels more like this impact versus today. I mean, you go things like Battlefield, um, 4 or 5, 20, the current ones at 2042 or something like that. Um, I mean, yeah, you have like these huge large scales and maybe 128 players, something like that, and you have big maps, but it's really just you're pitted against people. Yeah, you have tanks, you have helicopters, you have jets, so forth, and different kind of gadgets and all that stuff. But you that's pretty much at the core of it what it is, right? Whereas you can't really affect the environment as much as something you would see back in Battlefield 2. Um, I would say probably to me the last game like that, which has some kind of environmental impact that you could change the course of the map, probably was Battlefield 2, Battlefield Bad Company 2, I think. But even then, compared to Battlefield 2, Bad Company 2 um, wasn't the same, but probably definitely had more of the environmental effects, I think. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
from what I can remember, I think it was Bad Company 2 that really started to solidify what Battlefield would become, where it was like the smaller phase based objectives. I think it was actually like a mode at that time, but it was super popular and it was super fun too. But uh, yeah, I just would not have thought that would have been the beginning to ending this like large scale objective based activity.
You know, in some sense, you can't blame a dice and the publishers and trying to make a game that was. I mean, at the time, Call of Duty was out. I mean, Modern Warfare, what early initial Modern Warfare was coming out, and Battlefield, Dice. They're trying to. Um, Understandably, you can understand how they made the pivot to try to be a bit more mainstream, but to a fault, I would think. Given that it's there is a market. I believe there's an audience that's still out there that would like a slower pace, not super slower pace, but a Battlefield scaled, slightly slower pace game that does require a bit more thought. And I really would like to see that again someday. I don't know who would make it. I don't know. Um, would it be Dice or some other games out there that could make it? But definitely would like to see something like that again come back again for sure.
I have some more thoughts on this, but before we hop into that, are there any genres for you, Raymond?
Genre. Okay, I really wish RTS was popular again.
So
Because like, okay, were you guys watching Twitch when it switched from Justin TV?
That part was not. Then I pay attention to that part, but I haven't heard about it. But yeah, what was going on at that time?
Because I feel like I would say StarCraft 2,
Mm,
or I guess 1 was like the
mm,
first or one of the first esports.
yeah.
And like I used to watch Twitch all day, watching all the StarCraft 2 tourneys. Like I know the skill ceiling is so high and it's kind of boring to watch. So like League and Dota took it over, but I wish it was more popular now. But I know it's kind of I guess it takes too much investment because League is kind of easier since you don't have to worry about like, you know, actually fighting and managing an economy, but I just miss the glory days,
Mm.
you know, when Twitch used to be about gaming. Wink wink.
Well, it's a lot more than that now. But so so it kind of sounds like, so would you say like is this just a um general decrease in interest in like RTS type games, or is like some kind of trend that you think you saw, or something happened you noticed to make it be less popular compared to what it was before?
Um, no, I think it's just like even if you want to play StarCraft 2,
Yeah.
I mean, if even if you want to be good, like I was only diamond, and like that took like somewhat of an investment, like searching build guys and like unit timings, attack timings.
Mm.
Because other than that, you're just gonna like since it's 1v1 too, you're just gonna have a miserable time.
I see.
Then I think yeah, I mean it is. I feel like it is kind of like watching soccer, where it's boring most of the time, and then like when the two players they beef up their army or something,
Mm.
and they do like that first engagement. So I can see why it's boring for the Gen Z folks, but yeah, I just would like. I mean, did you guys watch esports back then? Remember like
Mm.
MLG?
Not so much not so much esports back then
Oh,
till of these past few years, I would say, for me.
yeah.
What was going on back then?
I guess. I mean, when you tune into Twitch, I think it was mostly like for StarCraft too.
Oh, I see.
Like
Okay.
any tournament they had going on. Um, yeah. Like I even knew some Korean players, so it was a good time.
Mm.
And to me, like the streamers back then, they were they actually had skill in their game. Not knocking on the streamers today, but I think majority were like what would you call it? Like yeah, high level, almost pro players streaming. You know, the people that should get the viewership, in my opinion. But
Mm. We say
but
we see this we see the skill level is because the RTS types games back then were harder compared to now.
I don't think it's harder. I just wish it was more popular again.
Mm.
Like I feel like I don't even know if StarCraft 3 will come out. Like I don't even know if there's a market for RTS anymore, unless it's like really like unique. Because there are some like I wouldn't call Civ RTS, but like like those type of games like Grand. I forgot Grand RTS,
Mm.
but not too much of like those arcadey RTS where you know it's like a quick 30 to an hour game. Because I think those Grand RTS takes days. Not
Okay.
multiplayer, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's more campaign story focused.
It's definitely a time commitment for sure, and a skill
I think so.
commitment
Yeah.
to playing that kind of game. Well, I mean, we never know. I mean, like everything's a trend. I mean, you hear uh, I mean, one thing I definitely felt is, I suppose maybe if I were not that I play too much RTS games, but I suppose you see a lot of games these days where they are a bit like RTS ish, but they're very niched. Um, Maybe some kind of like a simulator of this or a simulator of that or like a theme of this and that. So I suppose maybe it's something where there has to be some kind of like a newfound interest in a certain type of theme or setting or environment or whatever it could be. Because maybe this is my thinking. Maybe there is interest for RTS, but maybe it's like the specific type of niche of RTS that is just kind of fragmented out there. I don't know. I'm not too sure if that's the case, but you know, just kind of thinking top of my head that maybe something
Yeah,
like that's happening.
like I mean,
So I don't
Total
know.
War is pretty popular, but
Yeah, yeah. Well, I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, it could be that they're just cooking right now. Like it's been what over 10 years since StarCraft 2 came out, right? And I
yeah,
remember that being like a huge release, and like a bunch of people were playing it, talking about it, and it just it didn't click for me, but I remember it having its moment, and like I think it would just take like some type of I don't know, some type of revitalization, some slight changes to the model. But I mean, I think right now there's such like a backlash to like live service games, aside from the the ones that are just like plowing through and dominating everything. But something like that could be seen as super refreshing, right? Like similar to how um, Helldivers 2 just sort of like took up all the air for like 2 to 3 months.
yeah.
While you were talking though, Rayman, I was thinking, I'm not sure if we can get into it today, but would you come back to this topic on how we would want to revitalize some of these genres, and like what changes would we like to see that we feel could be good for the market today?
Yeah. I
That'd be a
would
good one.
ban Battle Royale.
uh, yeah, I mean, oh my god, battle royales. I kind of enjoyed it, but almost because that's all I had with Apex. But at the same time, it's just like how much time did we lose in just loading, just constantly loading and waiting for the ship, and then you immediately die. And it's like, well, I gotta go load for another 5 minutes.
Yeah, battle royale. I mean, yeah, it is kind of curious to see how long battle royale is gonna last. I mean, our like battle royale's been around for a while. I mean, you have things like Fortnite, Apex, still kicking. Um, I mean, I don't pay attention to Fortnite too much, but I'm guessing Fortnite is still a pretty high in demand, large community base of players, and I imagine that's gonna keep on going. But yeah, battle royale as a genre is that fading away? I don't know. I can't. It kind of seems to have staying power. I do feel that less battle royale, but games that are team based shooters maybe seems a bit less these days.
Oh,
I
you
mean,
mean like deathmatch?
with deathmatch. I mean, that deathmatch. I mean, well, deathmatch been like taken over by a lot of different objective type of games, like Overwatch's Payload,
Oh,
um, and stuff like that for sure. But I don't know. I can't. uh, I kind of feel like team-based shooters slightly getting less popular. I mean, you don't hear much Overwatch. I mean, yeah, there's still esports scene in Overwatch, but compared to what it was like a few years ago, I don't hear too much of it now. Um, I mean, I remember they had that kind of recent free to play game that came out from Ubisoft, X Defiant, and you and I played that a little bit, Rayman, and I think for what it was like a solid, good shooter, but it definitely didn't feel outstanding. Um, so I mean, yeah, I guess even though we may have our gripes with battle royale, I kind of feel like battle royale is still going to be hanging around for a bit until some new mode comes out. I don't know what that could be. I'd be interested to see what tops battle royale in the near future.
So like Battle Royale has fun moments,
Mm.
but it's like but majority is loot 20 minutes,
That's true.
gunfire, firefight 5 seconds, and then we load out.
That's true.
So like that used
That's
to
a
like
fair.
just
That's fair.
that used to just piss me off. And then like um yeah, what is that? What was that COD Battle Royale before Warzone?
Oh, Blackout.
Was it Blackout?
Yeah.
See
Yeah.
like that. I remember see like I didn't know the physics of the game, so I don't know if you remember Chris, but I was driving the truck
Uh-huh.
and then I went right at the edge where the circle was closing,
Mm-hmm.
but then I didn't know the truck had like those physics of rolling back down the hill. So I got out of the truck and you were in the bed. So
Yeah,
you
I
rolled
remember
down into the gas
that.
and then you died. So like those moments were funny.
I remember that one. Yeah, I remember. That was pretty funny. And I think I think my character was had like in a meditation, uh, seated meditation phase too. So I was just meditating and then back to the truck, and the truck rolled back into the through the firewall.
So I had like those old game brains. So I thought if I park the truck, it's just gonna stop. But then yeah, you rode back down the
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean that actually kind of makes me think. I mean, it's like going tangent, but that kind of makes me what you said about like the game physics. I mean, like today, like games are kind of well, depending on the type of game we're trying to build, right? I mean, sometimes the games physics are a bit more realistic, um, or like much more like finessed and like really like wire like down to the nail, like to get the physics just right. But I argue sometimes games back then, especially PC games back then, um, the fact that they weren't necessarily so accurate with his physics is what made it unique. Even the game parts of the games that were probably today's standards considered bugs would what defined the game in itself. Like for example, I remember the game we played a lot, Andrew, Natural Selection, which actually Raymond, it was a bit of like a mix RTS / FPS because you could play different types of roles where as a commander you could like top down or you could be like a soldier and look at it from the FPS side. But besides that, yeah, I remember that game, that section had a lot of like legit quirks or bugs that, yeah, they probably were bugs, but they were definitely used to the advantage of all the players who knew how to take advantage of it to very fun amusement. Like whether that be like sneaking into like clipping out of the map or hiding into these like boxes which you shouldn't be able to hide into, that kind of stuff, a bunch of other things. So I mean, yeah, I mean, game physics. I argue they don't have to be that perfect to make the game fun. So it'd be interesting.
Yeah. I even to this day, I still love a game with like good jank to it. Like just it's not supposed to be there, but it's not like game breaking. It just adds some character to it, and it becomes like a part of the game, and becomes like a well known secret. But nowadays, I mean, most of these things just once they're found out, they're immediately patched, and I just feel like games kind of lose some character to them in that way. But and I feel like jank is only seen as sort of like acceptable now if it's just like if it's not online. Um, and so things like Starfield that just came out had
Yeah.
quite a bit of jank, but seemingly people were like, I mean it was like funny, people had a good time with that, but these things aren't patched, they're just kind of left there. But immediately in a multi player setting, they're fixed, and I don't know, it's just a little disappointing in some respect.
Yeah, yeah. I think. I mean, I think part of it probably to me is the fact that today games are seen as something to be like perfect, right? Especially competitive shooters. Maybe you can also tie it to a bit of the whole competitive scene, esports, so to speak, where the game has to be like to be competitively fair. The game has to be like very um, adjusted to like the best it can be, to make things fair. Clear out any bugs that could be like wind breaking, anything like that. And I think the fact that the competitiveness of games today probably in some ways makes the game less fun compared to what it was before. Because back then when we were playing games, right? I mean, there were some competitiveness, yes, but we weren't. It's not like today where modern games today are you have rankings, leaderboards that people like on streaming sites on Twitch, showing their skills, how good they are. Whereas back then we didn't really have that. Games were just games, and yeah, you had some really legit crazy players, especially knowing the fact that we didn't have the hardware back then. Right, like we were like using these old rollerball mouses and these like really like old keyboards, like nothing like these game keyboards that we have today, where people were just like pulling off some like crazy shots and doing so well. But yeah, you have these really crazy competitive people or talented people playing games, but it was still seen as just a game back then. Um, which is why, like you said, Andrew, right? I mean, being able to retain those weird jankiness in the maps or features, or hidden secrets remaining in those games is what made the game entertaining, fun, unique. Yeah, I mean, well, not to harp on current games today, but I think
Because
the way things have changed or things have been improved on has somehow, some way, made things less fun for games in certain ways. Not way to go.
yeah, like that competitive stuff, it's like at a certain point you have to play the meta.
Mm.
So
Hmm.
like like for like okay, the ones like StarCraft and Overwatch, like at a certain rank, you can't really mess around and play whatever you want. So like, okay, do you remember the dive comp from Overwatch?
DevCon.
The,
I don't
it was
remember, but yeah,
usually like
refresh
the
me.
Winston, Diva, Genji, Lucio, like all
Oh
like
yeah, yeah,
super
yeah.
mobility.
Mm,
But like, after like 20 games, like it gets boring.
Hmm.
yeah,
But since that was the meta, like if you wanted to rank up, you can't be playing uh, Zenyatta or something stupid.
yeah,
But I feel like most games are like that now. Like you gotta play meta, or you kind of get punished.
yeah,
So
for
in
sure.
League, I just don't do that, and I'm pretty sure I get reported because I don't play like the current meta champs. But I mean that keeps it more fun.
Yeah,
Yeah, but that man, that was just always so like the closest I think I got to that was when we were like deep in Apex, and every season they would update, and there was a new meta, and they would just constantly like power scale people, and it was like, but to a point where I felt like things were just really broken. Like there's just no way you could play this character properly anymore. And like we were like fine, but we definitely weren't ranked anywhere near. And it's like we can't even play these characters at this level. Like this is not enjoyable.
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, you have to work like twice as hard too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. Like me, just like y'all said, it's like you have to. It's today. It's like trying to analyze and you have a lot of YouTube videos out there that just detailing the how to pro a certain character or how to win with a certain character and stuff like that. I mean, which is cool. I mean, like yeah, when we play a game, we do want to. I mean, I think it's natural to want to be the best, to be play the best as you can and win the games because I mean, at the end of the day, we're those kind of games we're playing to win, but you know it becomes to the point where the game becomes less a game. It becomes a legit like a technical. You could call it like a technical skill. Like you're trying to build a legit technical skill to the ins and outs of the games. You know how to move. You know how to do this, when to do that in certain situations, and it makes you think. Okay, well, you know, is that what's a, at one point does that become not fun anymore? Um, and I know for myself, like when I sometimes I think if we were younger, when we were younger, it probably I would argue we were all in our own way pretty decent in the games to say we could probably be competitive back then and be probably do some relatively decent. Um, and when I play games today that are the competitive games today, I do feel that urge to like win, but I eventually I realized, yeah, you know what, it's getting more stress than I should be. I have other things to think about, right? So I just take it back to that. Yeah, okay, you know what, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna spend that much time to really really upgrade my game as much as I think I would like to, and just enjoy the game as for what it is. Um, so, kind of get back to basics, so to speak, and just enjoy the fun. Because there's a lot of things to think about, right? Other than games these days, as much as we want to play more of, but yeah.
God, we just sound so old. These young kids, they don't know.
I mean, yeah, yeah, I know. It makes it. We do. I mean, 30. Yeah, 30, well, I mean, more than 30 years. We do, individually between all of us, and we all seen like different things, different trends of how games have been. I mean, yes. I mean, I think it's, and I would argue that given the way games have changed, I mean, I would say, okay, maybe games haven't changed for the worse, but maybe it's better to say games have changed to become something a bit different. So whereas games back, well, yes, at the core of it all, games are all still just there for entertainment purposes. But whereas I think before back then, it literally was for entertainment purposes. I mean, games today are actually made for a variety of things now, right? Like, yeah, entertainment at its core, but two, are they making a game for competitive, for esports scene now? Are they making a game for art purposes now? Are they making games to tell a story these days? Are they making games to rival film? Like you have those, Hideo Kojima games. He always makes his games very cinematic, like a legit movie story. Like sometimes you play Hideo Kojima game, it's less a game; it's more like a 40-hour movie or so, right? So I think games have just transformed to the point where it's less a entertainment product and literally more of like depending on what studio is trying to do, right? It's being made for a certain type of different kind of purpose beyond just entertainment. Well, I think we will end it off with that for us. But yeah, it's been good talk on our very first podcast with each other, and if you're listening to us, thank you for listening in and just kind of hearing the three of us talk about our history of games and what we like about it and our trends. And this is our very first podcast. We're gonna see how things go along and um, see how we transform, like how we mentioned games are. Just like games transforms from back then to now, we will make improvements and transform as we go along. So thank you for listening, and until next time, thank you.
Peace out.
Deuces.
Hey.